Avengers Infinity War is the third of it. I probably shouldn't review the movie with this. So, like I said, Avengers Infinity War. It's the third Avengers movie, and it wrecked me emotionally. You could argue that the entire MCU has been building towards this moment. For at least 6 to 10 years, we've been building towards this movie and towards this villain. And it has all of your favorite heroes from the previous Marvel films. You've got the original team of Avengers. You've got the newer team of Avengers. Hell, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy in this movie. And they all have to put their heads together and combine their superpowers and abilities and personalities and whatever to try to take down Thanos, the Mad Titan. That's right, Thanos is here and he is all about his business. If you've been following the MCU, then you should know by now that Thanos is looking for Infinity Stones. Infinity Stones are these really powerful singularities, these powerful, almost magical objects / stones that if you get 6 of them, you basically become God. And that's what Thanos wants. Thanos wants these stones. Why does he want these stones? Well, I can't tell you that. That'd be a spoiler. But suffice it to say, if he gets those stones, then he can basically reduce reality to ash with the snap of his finger. Yeah, that's not good for anybody. So we need to stop Thanos. That's what this movie's about. It's about stopping Thanos. I gotta give the Russo brothers a lot of credit for this. This is a huge project. This is a huge movie, and this is a film that has a lot of ambition. There's a lot of things in this movie that could go wrong, and while the movie is flawed in some of its execution, I gotta hand it to them. This is a monumental, gargantuan task in front of them. I know how difficult it is to combine all of these elements into such a major comic book crossover like this, but hey, they did it. By the way, this is the part of the review where I feel like I have to be honest with you, the viewing public. I have to be honest with you guys for a second. This is not an Avengers movie. It's not an Avengers movie. This is a Thanos movie with Avengers in it. I don't care what anybody else tries to tell you. The Avengers are pretty much supporting characters in this movie. Thanos, he rules the day. I have to gush about Thanos at this point because he is hands down the best part of this movie. This guy is so impossibly badass. Like, he is ferocious. He is scary badass. He's probably the most physically dominant and imposing Marvel villain that they've ever had. Avengers in this movie are what you would call a stoppable force. Thanos, by all measures and accounts, is an unmovable object. This guy is damn near so unstoppable, so beastly, that halfway through the movie, I was just sitting there like, okay, so how are they supposed to fuck with this guy? Thanos wasn't just a badass for the sake of being a badass. He wasn't just evil for the sake of being evil. My favorite type of villains are the villains that have a point to what they're doing. They're not just evil because they feel like being evil. They're evil because they believe that it's the best thing. You feel like Thanos in this movie really does believe in what he's doing. He doesn't really look at himself as a villain. Not only that, but they decided to flesh out Thanos emotionally way more than I would have expected. Adding an emotional subtext to his character, they honestly make him feel more like a person and less like a supervillain. I'm just saying, going into this movie, I did not expect Thanos to have the emotional layers that he actually ended up having. As for the rest of this movie is pretty much one big, huge, gigantic Marvel fan service orgy. And I don't mean fan service in a bad way. It's actually really good fan service. There are so many crowd-pleasing, cheer-worthy moments in this film. So many moments where a character says or does something really badass. So many moments where a character has a grand entrance, and it just makes you want to cheer. It's hard not to. If you love the Guardians, they're gonna have some moments. If you love the Avengers, both teams, they're gonna have some moments. The Russos did a great job at spreading the wealth around and allowing each character to have their own individual moments. I would say for the most part, every character gets their time in the sun. The action sequences are beyond glorious, beyond epic. They're bigger than anything you've ever seen in a Marvel movie. Not just the fact that the action sequences are extremely well filmed and that the CGI is glorious, but it's also the fact that the action sequences in terms of scale and scope are bigger than anything you've ever seen, and they deserve to be seen on the biggest screen possible. As far as the tone of the movie, here's the thing. The movie does have humor, and it'd be hard to expect a movie like this to not have Marvel's trademark sense of humor. There is some humor in it, and I will say there are some legitimately funny moments. I'll touch on more of the humor that I didn't like in a second, but for the most part, I'll say when shit needs to get dark in this movie, it gets dark. When shit needs to get real, it gets real. When shit needs to be serious, it gets serious. Pretty much almost every scene involving Thanos in particular, no jokes, it's 100% all business. Also want to give another special shout out to Alan Silvestri. He once again composed the hell out of a beautiful, bombastic, amazing musical score. In the end, the Russo brothers have crafted something that is truly an event, truly something that you have to witness. It is huge. It is larger than life. It is so gigantic in terms of scope and scale. The action sequences are amazing. The character interactions and dynamics. You get to see the characters interacting with characters that they haven't met before. That leads to some really good humor, but it also leads to some pretty awesome superpower team-up shit. And Thanos himself. Thanos carries the entire fucking movie on his bald head, and it is amazing to behold. Let's get one of my smaller issues out of the way first. The Black Order, yeah, they ain't about shit. You were going into this movie and you were excited about the Black Order and you wanted to see them kick ass. Well, I guess you're not gonna see much much of that. Half of the time they were written to be badass, and then the other half of the time they were nerfed so much that I kind of had to stop in the middle of the action sequence and go, wait, are these the same characters? That's just a minor thing. Let's get into the major issues of this film, because it does have a few. The pacing of the film is a little bit all over the place. A lot of different locations, a lot of different characters, a lot of different plots are going on at the same time in this film. And as a result, you can feel the Russo brothers straining to keep it all together, to hold the narrative in one piece. Sometimes that doesn't work the smoothest way. Sometimes it means there are some sections of the film that feel really rushed and feel like we got through it way too fast. And then there are other parts of the film that feel like it's dragging and it's taking a little bit too long. Go back and forth between so many characters and subplots that sometimes you'll go a long while without seeing somebody, and then they'll pop up and you'll be like, oh, I almost forgot you were in the movie. There was a little bit of an inconsistency in the way that certain characters were written in this film. More to the point, characters did things that seemed a little bit out of character and kind of contradictory to some of the films that we've seen come before this. Not all of the characters act that way, but some of them are written in a way that I can only characterize as sloppy. And then we get to the humor. For the first act of this movie, the humor did get on my nerves, I'm not gonna lie. I understand that things are funny and things have to be funny and there are jokes and stuff like that. Sometimes there were so many forced quips and one-liners that it took me out of the movie a little bit. Really, for the first act into the second act, the humor threatened to overwhelm everything else, and I was just kind of like, oh crap, is it going to be like this the whole movie? Luckily, the longer the film goes on, the less of an issue this is, but I have to point it out, because the first hour or so, I was just kind of like, I don't know about this. Ironically, the funniest parts of the movie involve Thor and Guardians, so there, I just gave you something to look forward to. I was going to use the flaws of this movie to knock it down and put it in the Silver Age, but then I had to be honest with myself and ask myself, how did this movie make me feel? I gotta say, emotionally speaking, this movie made me feel things that I have not felt for a Marvel film in a very, very long time. Emotionally, this movie goes to places that you wouldn't think it does. Emotionally, this movie reaches inside your chest, grabs your heart, and crushes it in a few places. I gotta be honest and go with my heart here, guys. Infinity War was awesome sauce, and I'm going to give it Superman Prime. By the way, the movie does end on a literal cliffhanger, and that's going to be divisive for some people because it's going to make the movie feel like it's part one of a two-part. Don't let anybody in Marvel try to lie to you and tell you different. This is part one of a bigger story. Who has seen Infinity War? Let me know what you thought about the movie down in the comment section below. Shh, keep those spoilers to a minimum. If you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.